Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
Hey, everybody, it's Jared. I'm with All Things Crime, and welcome to another episode. Appreciate you watching and listening. And if you haven't subscribed, we strongly encourage you to do so. We have episodes launch every Tuesday and Friday. So, yeah, we're growing at a crazy rate. So wherever you get your podcasts or YouTube or Rumble, we're all over there. So that's where you can find us. So definitely subscribe, hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. And I'm excited this morning to welcome Megan Stockburger to the show, and she is the co-founder of the National Law Enforcement Officer Hall of Fame. Did I get that right, Megan?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, that's
it's a mouthful, I know.
Yeah, it's a mouthful for sure, but very, very important. And welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me. I'm very excited to talk to you and fill you in about the Hall of Fame and what we're doing.
Oh, yes. Well, let's get right into it then. So tell us about a little bit about your background and, obviously the National Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, and which is, as we were talking earlier, has a little notoriety, especially with me, because our good friend Cheryl McCollum is inducted into it. So, it's got to be legit.
It is legit. And Cheryl is the biggest advocate for us and friend and family. And I had such a good time with her last year. We're going to have a great time this year at the event. And I can't wait to meet up with all the past honorees again.
Yeah, so. Cheryl's next level. So she's absolutely amazing and has been a guest on the show several times. So yeah, but Megan, tell us about your background and how you came up with, how the National, Law Enforcement Hall of Fame was created.
Sure. So back in 2009, I was starting my own event planning business. We're local Northwest Ohio area. So this is where all of this started. And my co-founder, Adam Davenport, was running the Entrepreneurial Business Excellence Hall of Fame at the time, which honors local entrepreneurs that have global impact. So he created this event and took it over from Ernst & Young so that we would have kind of like a local group to support our area businesses. And when he took that over, he needed an event planner. So he reached out to me. We had gone to high school together, and he said we would come plan this event. So that's kind of where our connection started working together. Fast forward to 2016, I'm at our event, and my dad attended. My dad is a retired law enforcement officer from Toledo Police Department. And he looked at me at the end of the event and he goes, "Why aren't you doing this for law enforcement?" And I said, "I don't know, Dad. That's a good question." So then we went back and we looked into it and we realized that it didn't exist. Nothing like this existed. And that was kind of frustrating in general to realize that this wasn't something that we did already in this country to honor law enforcement. So without knowing what to do, but just knowing our event planning background and the format from the other Hall of Fame event, we started local, small lunch, 60 people the first year in Northwest Ohio. And then it just kind of took off locally. We doubled every year, attendance, sponsorships. And then in 2023, we decided to go nonprofit because we would be able to better help law enforcement that way. So we became a nonprofit and we've grown so much that we went national. And then now our next event will be in Texas, in Fort Worth on March 22nd. And it has been a crazy ride, but it's been the biggest gift, like connecting people from across the country and giving these officers the recognition that they deserve. And they're so humble that they wouldn't ask for it, don't expect it. But I felt a calling that we had to do that for them. So that's kind of the short version of how we ended up where we are today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and I'll tell you, before we get too far into this, I went to your website, which is nationalleohalloffame.com. Mm-hmm. And toward the bottom of the page, I have to read this because I think it's just so indicative of everything that I think you guys stand for. And it says, quote, in recognizing officers who have gone beyond the call of duty to provide exceptional service throughout their careers, the National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame provides an invaluable means of thanking police professionals for their inspiring dedication and sacrifice to their communities. Here, dedicated officers of every rank and assignment can be honored for their daily outstanding devotion to our safety and welfare. The behind-the-scenes professionalism with which the selection process is run is remarkable, and the induction ceremony is among the most moving and meaningful events I've experienced across more than 30 years of involvement with law enforcement. And that's from Charles Remsberger, who says street survival author. So
So
I thought that, yeah.
Mhm.
Go,
That
go ahead,
defines
Mick.
it completely.
Yeah.
And the
I,
reason, let me tell you a little bit about Charles Rumsberg. So he attended the event in 2019. One of our honorees, Chuck Humes, was inducted, and he came and presented to him. He wrote all the street survival books, which my dad actually read. I mean, it's a full circle moment as training. He's an incredible gift to the law enforcement community. And he attended and he encouraged Caliber Press, which is a training organization in law enforcement, to get involved, and took our event to the next level, gave us the confidence because he was there the first year when it was just 60 people in a room. And this man has attended events across the country, but he saw what it meant to everyone in that room, and he saw what the future could bring for this. And so we wanted to honor him and then honor my father as well for giving us the idea. And so the Lifetime Achievement Award is the Shearer Remsberg Lifetime Achievement Award. So I was able to give back to both of those guys that gave us the confidence and strength to do this and take it where it's going.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, I don't have, I have a military background. So, you know, that's kind of how I got started. And it's just kind of sheer luck, I guess, is how I ended up in the law enforcement space. But I think the military and law enforcement and any first responder, really, they kind of have the same mindset. First of all, there's a brotherhood that and sisterhood that obviously exists that just you just can't get anywhere else. And the key is, I think there's a level of sacrifice and there's a level of suffering, if you will, you know, things that they will put up with that nobody else would, that kind of creates that stronger bond. But the most important thing I think about, you know, both first responders and military is the accolades that they deserve but rarely get is it's pretty significant. So, you know, and so I think that's one of the reasons that when I saw, you know, the Hall of Fame, you know, it caught my eye. I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? Of all the things that needs to be highlighted even more, and anything that I can do to get the word out that you guys even exist, I think is awesome. But it's important, you know. I think there's a natural craving way down inside of us that we all want to be recognized for things that we do. And out of all the people that have the least amount of recognition for the incredible sacrifices they do, it's definitely first responders. And I think police are right up there on the top of that.
No, I agree. So I can give you a couple of examples of what also fuels me to keep going and kind of how I explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So when I was younger and my dad worked for the police department, during the year, him and his partner, if they came across a family that was struggling or needed help during Christmas time, they would go to the store, fill up groceries, buy gifts for the children. But the most important thing that my dad did is he took my sister and I with him. And he showed us how lucky we are, but he also was helping a family every year. No one on the department knew that he was doing that. No, I mean, never. Like, it didn't come up. He didn't do it to get recognized, but he did it to teach us what's important in life and to also show that giving back is the greatest feeling in the world. And it's stories like that. That's just a simple, small story, but that's an example of that's just my dad here in Toledo, Ohio. Can you imagine what so many officers across the country are doing that we don't hear about? So this Hall of Fame gives them the opportunity to be nominated, to get their stories told, and to kind of just, get rid of the negative for once. Like, let's focus on the positive, because these people are risking their lives every day for strangers completely. So they'll go to a call for domestic violence, and then they have to go to an accident, and then they have to go to, a fight in a parking lot or a robbery, and then they have to go home and be a parent, a spouse, a friend, a son, a daughter, and expected to put a smile on their face. And then they have to deal with the negative backlash a lot, and it's not fair. And I feel that it is our duty to show them we care about them, we support you, we have your back. This is just a little way that I can do that, but maybe it will implore other people to do the same and support these men and women who risk their lives for us every day. So that's
Oh,
kind of what gives me
yeah.
the drive every day to keep going.
Right. Well, we all have things that motivate us, and I can't think of a better reason to keep going than that. Yeah, I saw a story just the other day of an officer that pulled the guy over, and he was just going to give him a ticket, and then as he was walking back to his car, and the officer was white, and the guy that got pulled over was African American. He was black, and so the amazing thing is the story was actually written by the black guy.
Hmm.
And he said, as he got my license and everything, and as he was walking back to his car, he looked in the back seat and saw that the guy's daughter was in the back seat, but she wasn't in a car seat. So he went back to the driver's side and said, "Hey, you realize that your daughter needs to be in a car seat." And that's when the black guy basically said, "Well, look, I just got divorced. I'm kind of in between jobs and I'm struggling and I just can't afford a car seat right now, but I'll get one, as soon as I can." So the officer basically said, "Okay, you follow me." And they were I can't remember the town they were in, but they said it was a pretty rough part. And they went to a Walmart and they were walking through this Walmart together. And the officer bought him a car seat and some groceries and then just said, you know,
Take
keep
care.
doing what you're
Be
doing.
okay.
If you're a single dad and trying to provide for your daughter, then you deserve a break. And so the awesome thing is the black guy wrote this article and I think posted it on social media, and the police department picked it up and found out. And but the police department is the one that basically outed the officer and said, this is the guy that did it. So
Right. But he
but
didn't need that.
yeah. Otherwise, the officer would have just probably
Every
just felt better about, doing what he does every day. But yeah, he wasn't searching for anything. But the amazing thing is, I have a number of cops that live here in my neighborhood, and they are some of the most incredible people that I've ever known. But yeah, none of them want any particular accolades. They just want to do what they do and then go home to their families every night, just like everybody else does. But they have the most thankless job, I think, out of all of us. And so the fact that you have started this Hall of Fame, and it's all about highlighting
positivity.
highlighting people that have done those kind of acts of service for 30 years, or even doing even one particular act like that. I just think it's fantastic that, yeah, that you're doing that, because they need more recognition, and I know they don't want it, but
Yep.
they deserve it, and so they should get it.
I agree completely. This is something that I get busted for saying all the time if you've heard me speak before, but there's over 700,000 law enforcement officers in this country. It tends in the media to only focus on a handful of the negative stories. I feel that it's our job to counteract that and bring the positive stories to light, whether they want that or not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now more officers are understanding they deserve it. And let's keep going. And it's like I said, it's the best thing ever is when you award someone at the ceremony and then they stay with you after and they want to support it. They want to see the Hall of Fame succeed. And it's because they realize that they deserve it. Even though they don't want it, they deserve it. And so that's our job.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Yeah, I'm I need to do some more research on it because just, hearing that you've inducted people like Cheryl McCollum and others that, well, in fact, I was also scrolling down your website, which, by the way, everybody needs to go visit and definitely donate
Yes,
to
please.
the Hall of Fame because, yeah, of all the people in our society that deserve a little recognition, it's our first responders. So, but Kyle Reyes, you
Yeah.
have him as an inductee. I follow him on LinkedIn really closely, and he's doing some just crazy things, especially highlighting things that are going on down at the border and that kind of thing. So that's really
So
cool. That yeah. Go
let me
ahead.
tell you a little bit about Kyle because his award is new this year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 new awards that we're introducing, one of which is going to Kyle Reyes, and that's the Civilian Support Award. Because we do think that that is also very important to recognize because we do have a lot of civilians out there that support law enforcement and they deserve to be recognized. And Kyle, the work he's doing law enforcement today, Blue Lives Matter, he's incredible. Like you said, what he's doing at the border. And it's a lot of selfless acts on his part as well. And so I was very excited to institute this award and that he accepted. And I can't wait to see what he does in the future. And then the other award is the Canine Award, which was sponsored by Fox and Hound Canine Foundation, Karen Doss. Incredible woman, incredible company. But we get to honor Canine Kit this year from Braintree, Massachusetts. It's posthumously because he was, again, a hero. And 2 officers were shot, and he saved all of them in the end, and he died saving them. That relationship between canines and officers is so important to recognize as well. And the fact that, dogs are everyone's best friend, man's best friend, my best friend, and they deserve it too. And that relationship goes hand in hand. So I'm very excited about that award and to be able to talk about that relationship and what that does for law enforcement too.
Wow. Yeah. Don't get started about dogs, man. I'll get
Wait till I send you some
I'll get all
pictures of
choked
him.
up because boy, dogs are just the most amazing animals in the world.
And completely innocent.
Yep. But as far as like you said, a canine, their relationship with their handler, where there is nothing that canine won't do for that handler. So
And Canine Kit did that for his handler, and we're very excited to be able to honor him.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. So when is the meeting again?
So the induction ceremony will be held on March 22nd to Friday, Fort Worth, Texas at the Omni. We'll have a cocktail hour. Dave Bray USA is our musical guest. He does an excellent job. He was with us last year. And we also have Sheriff Wayburn from Tarrant County, Texas will be our MC. He is larger than life, nicest guy. We've been welcomed with open arms in Texas, and we're just really excited to show everyone there what we're about and keep on growing. We just need the help of sponsors and donors. We have, the NRA is one of our supporters. We're so thankful. Bear Arms Tactical, it's a local store here, but they're online. They're a huge supporter. We're doing an LEO rifle raffle right now. It's a Leo Henry. Go on our website, check it out. Beautiful gun. We did one last year, but just we're thankful for all of the support from our sponsors. We want to keep going. And we want to keep making a difference and help any way we can.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Well, any other stories that you can tell us about some of the other inductees?
Oh, sure. I could go on all day, but I'll tell you.
Megan, we have to say,
You have to
so
cut me off.
what, I'm sorry.
You have to cut me off. I have so many stories to tell.
Oh, I know. Well, but the first story I want you to tell has to be about Cheryl. I mean, what is it about Cheryl that got her inducted?
Okay, well, I mean, that one I could go on all day for as well. But Cheryl is also a civilian. And so she kind of inspired the Civilian Support Award, but she won our Lifetime Achievement Award last year. And the reason she won that, I mean, she has her own nonprofit, Cold Case Institute. So she helps solve cold cases across the country out of the goodness of her heart, while she also works in crime scene investigation at the Hateville Police Department in Georgia. She helps Nancy Grace all the time with her cases. She goes on any podcast, any interview, anything to help solve cases, to spread the word of victims across the country. And you know what? She does it for nothing. She will help you. And once you're in with her, you're in, and she will take you and guide you along. So that's kind of what we look for in all of our honorees is this is a career for them. This isn't just a job. The people that get inducted to the Hall of Fame choose this as their life, and it means more to them than just a paycheck. And Cheryl is the epitome of that. She could care less if she makes any money. She just wants to help as many people as she can. She's helped us ever since she was inducted. And like I said, you know her. She's salt of the earth, one of the best people ever, but that is who we induct into this Hall of Fame. So if you know Cheryl, you know that we want the best of the best, and we have them.
Yeah. Well, she's through her cold case research institute is actually how we originally met.
Okay.
And then I don't know, it was something about there was a cold case, I think, up in North Carolina that they recommended using the MVAC on. And that's kind of how we got connected. And that was like 10, maybe 11 years ago.
Oh, really?
So yeah, Cheryl and I have known each other for a long time. She's and that's a perfect description of her. And yeah, I can't think of anybody that is more deserving of accolades, and yet, like you said, never seeks out for him. You just can't help but
Love
just
her.
feel good when you're around her. I've never heard her say a negative thing about anybody. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, even when I start going down my negative roads and I'm like, I start whining and
Mhm.
crying about everything. I go into ranger mode, I guess, and she'll just like change the subject. She'll do something
Lets you
to
out of
just
it.
smooth things over. And yeah, just amazing.
I
Okay.
did
So,
walking with her this week, though. I text her
okay.
and said, I'm stressing out, Cheryl. And she goes, don't stress. We got this, baby. We're all good. And I'm like, that's all I needed. That was it. And I'm like, she's right. We're good.
Yeah. Her Southern charm, and I'm sure you've met her husband too. And
Oh,
those
Walt
two,
is the best.
oh yeah.
Yes.
When I went to last time I was in Atlanta, I went to dinner with them. And yeah, the two of them are just, especially when they're together, you just can't beat them. It's just what a fantastic, fantastic couple. So, all right. So you've got to have others. Who's
Sure.
some of your favorites?
Well, this one just kind of affected me the most recently, and that would be Alec Iorado out of Connecticut. So he, 26 years old, you know, goes to a domestic call with two other partners, and they were shot and killed by the assailant at the domestic. And Alec was also shot, but he managed to take out the threat while being injured and saved innocent lives, and who knows how many, right? Meeting him and learning what that does to someone, I mean, you can imagine, but being able to award him something for his bravery and to let him know that what he went through and his sacrifices and what he had to experience is absolutely worth it, because we recognize what he went through, and everyone should know that that's not something that people should ever have to face, and that he's a hero. And so I feel like it helps some of our officers that go through these realize that what they did meant something to not just their area, their department, their families, but to all of us. So that's one of the stories that affected me the most, I would say, is things like that, because you just realize how precious and short life is, and they need to know that we have their back.
Oh, yeah. As you were talking, the thought came to my mind. I'm trying to think of the incident, but do you remember there was a female and a male officer, and I remember seeing both of them were shot, but like the female officer came over to, and I think she was shot in the face, but she still was like covering for her partner and trying to, engage the
Yeah,
threat at the same time. I'm wondering if that was in the Dallas area.
we
I,
did have.
I,
I know that there is an officer, Houston Gas, that was shot in the face down in that area as well. He's friends with one of our board members, Banning Sweatland, but again, he survived that and subdued the threat. And it's just stories like that you're just like, how can you keep your head on in that moment, let alone after when you come down, because that adrenaline is going and it gets you through. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's incredible what they do. And I want to do everything I can. And so does Adam Davenport, our co founder, to continue this and make sure that we can honor officers and bring to light the positive stories moving forward.
no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I had another guest on just a few weeks ago, and he had written a book, but one of his quotes that I really liked was, law enforcement is, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something to the effect of law enforcement is basically 90% boredom and then 10% just sheer terror. And,
Who was
it's
that?
those, his name's, oh geez, of course I'm going to forget it. Arthur.
You'll have
Oh
to
man.
send that to me. But yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
true, though.
yeah.
It is.
I'm embarrassed now. I can't remember my
Well, I
guest's
just
name.
said that because I have another officer that recently wrote a book too. And so
Okay.
I was wondering if it was the same one. I'm staring at it, but he had the similar thoughts,
Yeah. Well,
where it's
the book he wrote was Deputy Know Your Rights, and it was really interesting because he was actually a business owner. He said he owned multiple businesses, but decided to become a deputy at the age of 40. And so, I can imagine the difference when he was going through the academy. He's sitting
right.
next to some 20-year-old guys that are barely halfway through college, and yet here he is.
I
Anyway,
know,
it
but
would have been an interesting
incredible.
experience. Yeah. Anyway, he had a lot of really, really interesting experiences and a perspective that I really appreciated about not only, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and the Second Amendment, but not only from a law enforcement perspective, but also from a civilian perspective. And
Hmm.
but anyway, he was a great guest, and there's been a lot of interaction with that. But there's this, I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is there's just so many incredible officers that are out there, and they have this perspective because they're civilians too.
Hmm.
When they're not in uniform and they're not actually on duty, they still have kind of a special nomenclature about them. But they're
They're still
not
human.
completely a civilian, but
Mhm.
at the same time they are. And when they're not actually performing their duties, then they're just like us. But they have rights too. And that was the thing, is he was able to look at it from both the law enforcement and the civilian side and say, this is how we interact and this is how we're supposed to interact. And it's not supposed to be this total confrontational all the time. And
No.
it's sad when it is. But that 90% boredom, these guys are just driving around, sitting there. Well, I'll tell you, somebody that I think would be an amazing inductee into the Hall of Fame is an officer down in LA. His name is Dion Joseph.
Hmm.
He spent most of his career on Skid Row. And this guy, wow, boy, he is just unreal. But
The
he
stories he
always,
could tell.
I'm sorry.
The stories he could tell, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, he when I had him on the podcast, he told a few really cool stories. And well, I mean, just, I don't know if cool is the right word, but just,
Fascinating.
yeah, it's like, wow. He said, well, one of the stories that he told that really sticks in my mind is, I think that was back when everybody was kind of pushing to defund the police and kind of move some of the responsibilities to like social workers.
Hmm.
And he was like, I can tell you flat out that when some lady is whacked out on drugs, she's smeared with peanut butter, she's naked in
Yeah.
the middle of an intersection, swinging a pipe around, trying to hit people, and
Social worker isn't
complete.
going to calm that
Yeah,
down.
yeah. There's no social worker in the history of social workers that is going to want to take care of that. So,
And why would we put untrained civilians in harm's way?
right.
What I will never understand.
Well, I guarantee the turnover for those untrained civilians is going to be really high if that ever does happen. So,
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't, because it's just moronic. But anyway, somebody officer like that, he's in Skid Row for
Right.
almost 25 years, and all the drug addicts and everybody down there, that's probably the roughest part of LA that you can think of, and yet because he's a loving, caring person, and
Stays.
I think well, first of all, his arms are like this big around. He's huge, and so I'm sure that helps. But he's also black, but he also talks about how his own community, when he decided to become a law enforcement officer, a lot of his own friends and family, basically totally abandoned him, and
Yes.
yet,
We had a speaker one year that had a similar experience, and he didn't fit in with his friends on the streets, and he didn't fit in with his department. And so it was
mm,
like a balance he had to find as
yeah.
well.
Well, and so that also brings up some of the isolation that these guys experience, and they're just in a different category. They just don't really fit. I liken it to some of these warriors that are coming back from war zones. These military guys. Some
Hmm.
of them, they're going through things and internal battles really themselves, that they're trying to cope with what happened. Some of them have survivor's remorse, and
Well, that
there's
is
all.
our next phase of the Hall of Fame is we want to be able to help with free and anonymous mental health care for law enforcement, because
Mm,
you need a trained clinician that knows what they're going through. It's totally different than, a therapist for a divorce or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's a goal of the Hall of Fame in the future is we want to help them get through these things and not have to worry about the cost or the stigma attached to it.
yeah, it's fantastic. I just the resources that these guys need, like again on the military side, the VA just doesn't do it, and they need help just so many levels above that. And I'm sure a lot of these officers, like the ones you were describing, even though they're being rewarded with recognition, some of them, they may feel that survivor's remorse is real. And that officer that you were describing, where he was wounded, but he was still protecting or trying to protect at least the other officers that were there, even though some of them didn't make it.
Right.
And I'm sure mentally and emotionally he's going through things that nobody else can even comprehend. It's like, until you've been through it, you just don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, okay. So how about one more? What
One more.
anybody else that you can think of that really jumps out?
Oh, there's so many, but I would like to talk about kind of the local officers just for a second, just because it's a crazy story. Was last year our Chief Trenley of Toledo Police Department, he was inducted, but he was the interim chief. The day of the event, he was announced as chief. And it's just like that's another example of how the Hall of Fame gets it right. You know what I mean? We didn't know he was going to be chief. We were just honoring from what he did in the department beforehand. And then we have Louis Espinoza, who made it his career, and he's a local Toledo police officer. But I'm saying when you choose this as your job, he's one of those people that worked his way up through the department, wanted to do everything he could to make the job better. His son's in law enforcement now. And then we have Derek Diggs, who's being inducted this year, and he's getting an award posthumously. But the best part of his story was was Toledo chief here, but then he went to Fort Myers and he was chief of police there until he passed away last year. But what he did in Fort Myers is he instituted so many different programs that they have the third lowest crime rate in the entire state of Florida. So much so that they're naming a facility after him and his work. And that he will be receiving the Founders Award because it was important to still honor people from our local area when we moved to Texas. But he's also made an impact in 2 different departments. And now his son's working for the sheriff's department. I mean, stories like that, that's incredible. Like, not only did he utilize his skills here, but then he carried it on and changed departments in Florida as well. So those are the type of stories that it might not be the huge glamorous ones that you see on the news, but that's what people need to hear. Like, there are officers out there working every day to make this country a better place and a safer place. And we need to talk about those officers.
Wow. Well, hopefully coming on here and a little more exposure on this podcast will help you guys. And I really, really appreciate you coming on and telling your story. So I want to go back again to the National LEO Hall of Fame.com, National Law Enforcement Officer Hall of Fame.com. So if anybody, you want to, first of all, please go visit the website and read all these incredible stories, but also hit that donate button and, donate to the Hall of Fame, because of all the people, I mean, you think about the Baseball Hall of Fame and things like that. It's like they have just almost unlimited resources. And yet the true heroes of our communities are these law enforcement officers, and they barely get any recognition, let alone pay. And yet they are infinitely more deserving. So please go and donate and help these guys any way that you can. So
Thank
Megan,
you so much.
It's
I
been
appreciate it. And it's so nice to talk to someone that understands it and understands what we're doing is important. And these officers are amazing.
100% agree. So Megan, I appreciate you coming on. And you know what? Before we end, you know what you need to do is, do you go to CrimeCon?
Yeah, we missed each other in September. I didn't know I was there with Cheryl. We shared a booth.
Oh, shoot.
I know.
Were there with Cheryl?
Yeah, we shared a table.
My gosh. All right. Well, I'm going to have to get on Cheryl's case for not introducing us, for crying out loud.
Well, she's the popular one at CrimeCon, so she was a little busy.
Oh, she's a rock star, isn't she? That's crazy.
Yes, she is.
Okay. Well, next CrimeCon, then we will for sure meet up. So
I would love to. Thank you again for everything.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. We will talk at you later then.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.